It is time to work on our 13th chords. It's pretty much the last one of all the tension series that we have. You know, we went through like our 7th chords, our 9th chords, 11th chords, and now we're on our 13th chords. So really, really cool thing. The 13th chords is pretty much the opposite towards guitar to what the 11th chords do. So typically 11th chords fit really, really well over minor chords for the guitar. And then 13th chords fit really well over major chords. So we're going to jump in and I'm going to have a little bit of fun with this. I'm going to show you guys the theory towards building any 13th chord if you want to do it. And then I'll show you guys how you can fit it in with the diatonic chord sequence that we do. So if you're new here, my name is Luan. I'm a professional musician, graduated Berkeley with a scholarship. And this is a lesson from our free online music school. You can jump in and check it out how you like it. I'll pin the lesson in the comments so you can see the previous lessons and then the future ones. Have fun and enjoy. Now, the 13th chord is we're just going to add another third on top of our little sequence of, you know, tensions. So we've got root, 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th, 11th, and then 13. Boom. That's it. So we've got 3 that we need to memorize. Going to be the major, minor, and then the dominant ones. So it's going to be major 13 will be root, 3rd, 5th, 7th, 9th, 11th, 13th. And then with the second one will be the minor 13 chord, which will be root, flat 3, 5, flat 7, 9, 11, 13. And then the last one is going to be our dominant 13th chord, which is going to be root, 3rd, 5th, flat 7, 9, 11, 13. Oh my gosh, I got there. So basically, as you can tell, there's a lot of notes now. There's 7 notes, and those 7 notes against 6 strings can't do it. Literally can't do it. So it is mathematically impossible. So something has to give, and we have to remove it. So when it comes to guitar, like on piano, you can do whatever you want. Like piano players, just piece out A-Town. You know the formulas. Go and have fun. It crushes. You can do all this really, really cool stuff. But within the diatonic chord sequence, these notes are going to be like, you're going to have to figure out which way you want to approach the 13s. Personally, I only really use the 13th similar to how I approach the 11th, where it's only going to be over major chords. And typically, I actually just use it over a 5 chord. But for theory's sake, we're going to go through all the chords. So for the 1 chord, which is a 1 major 13, you can add it in, and it will sound like this. And so right here, you see I've got, oh, wait, sorry, I did a fancy one there. My bad, that was incorrect. So 1 major 7, which is this. So it's going to root note, and then I got my 7, now my 3rd, and then I got my 13, and I got my 9. So that's how I was able to fit them all in. You don't have to do that. I never play that chord. If I'm going to play anything with a tension, it's either going to be just a 1 major 7 or it's going to be a 1 major 9. So 13, if you want to add it, you can add it, up to you. The next chord in the sequence is the 2 chord, where you can fit in a 2 minor 13. It will be able to sneak in there. It is quite ninja. So it's right this. Quite sneaky. I typically would not play this. It just doesn't vibe for the function of the 2. The 2 is meant to be like a 2. And if I'm already like implying the 3rd of the 5 chord, because that's what it is actually technically doing. It is technically kind of like voice leading, but we want that movement. We want that movement of the... You see how that 2-5-1, that movement, we want that movement. We don't want it to be subtle. See, it just doesn't, I don't know. I don't like it. So that's why technically you can add the 13. So there I'm going root, flat 3, root, flat 7, flat 3. And then I got my 13 and 9. So I could do it if I wanted to, but we don't want to do it. It's no bueno. It's not really something I practically use. Now, the next one's going to be the 4 chord. 4 chord, we can do the 13, and it will sound like this. Up to you if you want to do it. I personally don't do it. Like I said, if I'm going to add one tension, it's going to be a 9 chord. Like, I love the sound of a major 9 chord over a 4 chord. It just sounds so epic. It's huge. It's just really, really pretty. And then the next chord's going to be the 5 chord. And so over the 5 chord, we will pretty much be using the 13. So on the 5 chord, the 13 is like, it's like one of the best chords that you can implement in your playing. If you can sneak in a 13 on a 5 chord, it is one of the sexiest ways to connect to a 1 major 7, because the 13 of the 5 is the 3rd of the 1. So you're implying the 1 chord in a really, really nice way. So just fitting in diatonically. So we're going to sit here. So we got our 1, 2 minor, and then we're going to our 4, and now our 5 is going to be a D. So this is how I do a D13, right? I would go root, flat 3, root, flat 7, 3, 13, right there. Now if I go like this, look at that. Oh, very, very clean, very clean. So that's where I love having a 13 chord. Outside of that, you can sneak it in, like say down here if I wanted to. I could do it like that, but it just doesn't have the same effect as to like going, like if I did it like that, I could go. It's kind of nice, but I prefer it over here. And it's a really, like for any, okay, I mean, if you're playing jazz guitar, this is going to be like the ultimate hack. Or say you ever see a 2-5-1 progression, this is the ultimate hack 2-5-1. You do a 2 minor 9, and then you do a 5-13, and then you do 1 major 7. Straight up makes you sound like the jazziest person in the world. Very, very easy. You're doing a couple of tensions. So anytime you see in a chord progression a 2-5-1, which is that jazz cadence, you can do a 2 minor 9, and then you do a 5-13, and then you do a 1 major 7. So that's a quick little ninja hack. But that's all we're doing. And then outside of that, no more 13s. So from a practical guitar standpoint, just put the 13 over the 5. But if you want to get technical, you can put it over the 1, the 4, and if you really, really want to, the 2. But I throw it over the 5, and it sounds really, really cool. That's the only like musical scenario that I throw in a 13. And it fits over pop music and things like that. But other ones, they're just too much. Like they're too jazzy. We're going full jazz at that point. So obviously for all the jazz cats, you can kind of do whatever you want. There's no wrong notes. But for us people living in Western pop music, there are wrong notes. And those wrong notes are the 13 on the 1, 4, and the 2, and also on the 3 and the 6. But on the 5, you can sneak in a 13. You will sound very, very cool, and no one's going to be like, oh, what are you doing? And like I said earlier about like chord tensions and stuff like that, we don't want to step on the music. So I'm arming you with all this information. You can hook in and do whatever you want with it. But just know it's about respecting the vocal, respecting the core elements of the music. You don't want to ruin the melody. Anytime you start throwing in tensions, you are going to force the melody into a corner. You are essentially backing the melody into a corner. So if there is a melody and then you play a 13 and that melody is not liking where that 13 is, and there's dissonance because it's like too close or things like that, be aware of it, because typically when people write these songs, they're not writing them with tensions in mind. They're writing them within like basic triads or possibly sevenths. And so most great songs are typically going to be respecting, the melody is the most important thing, and then they get creative with reharm. But like changing the harmonies, and you see it all the time in like jazz players, they do it and they just like butcher these songs, and it's like, come on. And there's a reason why a lot of these really great arrangers, when they place them so subtly so they don't ruin the mix. They don't ruin the mix of everything that's happening in there. And so be aware. that you now have great power, and with great power comes great responsibility. So do not go around throwing these tension chords everywhere. They aren't the best for every scenario. If you're playing a country song, do not play a 13. I'm telling you, 3 chords in the truth, play them open, they will crush. That's all you need to do. You don't need to do more than is required. Be listenable. Don't be fancy. Fancy gets people to throw beer bottles. Nah, I've been fancy and no one's thrown a beer bottle at my face. But, you know, I never went full fancy. So I was kind of like half fancy, but I don't know what it looks like to go full fancy. So use it at your own peril. Anyway, I'm going to move on to the next tutorial. So thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I hope you guys are going to crush it with your tensions.